She was divorced and abandoned while pregnant by her billionaire CEO husband, replaced by mother's choice. She returned years later with a secret that will shock them. Please, please, don't do this. Get out. Get out of this house. Now. I'm in labor. The baby's coming. I need to get to the hospital. That's not my problem. Aiden, please. This is your baby. Our baby. The doctor said that baby isn't mine. You've been lying this whole time. I've never lied to you. I've never been with anyone else. Please, you have to believe me. Enough of your lies. My mother was right about you from the beginning. You're nothing but a gold digger who trapped me into this marriage. Then at least call an ambulance. Please, I'm begging you. You should have thought about that before you decided to cheat on me. Mrs. Sanders, please. I can't. The contractions are. I can't even walk. Then crawl. I don't care what you do, but you're not staying in this house another second. My son needs to move on with his life, and you're in the way. It's storming outside. Look at the rain. Look at the lightning. You can't throw me out in this. I'll die out there. Should have been more careful about whose baby you were carrying then. No. No, please. Aiden, don't let her do this. Don't let your mother do this to me. To your daughter. It's not my daughter. She is. I swear to God, she is. Get her out of here. Now. No. No, please. Please don't. Stop fighting and get out. My hands. You're hurting me. You've hurt my son enough. Now it's time for you to leave. The door. Please. Don't open the door. Please. Goodbye, Juliana. No, no, no. Aiden. Bethany, please. Please don't do this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for whatever I did wrong. Please just let me stay until the baby comes. Please. I'm begging you. You had your chance. You wasted it. Please. The storm. I can't. The baby. Should have thought about that. No. No. Please. Somebody help me. Somebody. The sound you just heard. That was a door slamming shut. And on the other side of that door, in a storm with wind speeds reaching 60 miles per hour, rain coming down in sheets, lightning splitting the sky every few seconds, was a 9 months pregnant woman who'd just been thrown out of a $30 million mansion by her husband and his mother. Her name was Juliana, and what nobody in that mansion knew, what nobody in the world knew, was that the woman they just threw away, like garbage, was hiding a secret so explosive it would destroy them all when the truth finally came out. Picture this. A woman on her hands and knees, crawling down a driveway in the middle of a thunderstorm. She's soaking wet. She's 9 months pregnant. She's in active labor. Contractions are hitting her every 60 seconds. She's crying so hard she can barely see. She's begging God to save her baby. And behind her, the mansion where she's lived for the past year, the home of her husband, is completely dark. Every light off, every door locked, like a tomb. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to discover they were never who you thought they were? Have you ever been made to feel worthless by the very people who promised to love you? Have you ever wondered if you'd survive the worst night of your life? This is Juliana's story. A story about a woman who gave up everything to find authentic love. A story about betrayal so deep it almost killed her. A story about survival, justice, and the most satisfying revelation you'll ever hear. Because here's what makes this story absolutely insane. The family that threw Juliana out that night, the Sanders family, they treated her like trash for one specific reason. They thought she was poor. They thought she was a nobody, a failed artist who'd trapped their son into marriage. They thought she had nothing. No family, no money, no power, no worth. They were wrong. Juliana was hiding something. Something she'd kept secret for 3 years. Something that would make Bethany Sanders, the cruel mother-in-law who pushed her into that storm, realize she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand how Juliana ended up crawling through a storm while in labor, thrown away by the man she loved, we need to go back. Back to before the mansion. Before the marriage. Before everything went so horribly, devastatingly wrong. If you're ready for a story about survival, justice, and the most shocking twist you'll hear this week, hit that like button right now. And make sure you subscribe because you won't believe where this story goes. Now, comment below where in the world you're watching from, or just type "I am with you, Mr. Hearthline." I love hearing from you all. Let me tell you about the girl Juliana used to be. 3 years before that terrible night in the storm, Juliana Cox stood in her father's office, in a high-rise building overlooking the city, and said words that would change her life forever. "I'm leaving, Dad. I need to do this on my own." Richard Cox, founder and CEO of Cox Technologies, a man worth approximately $8 billion, looked at his daughter with confusion and concern. "Leaving? What do you mean leaving? If this is about the trust fund, we can restructure it, give you more control. It's not about the money. It's about me. I need to know if I can make it on my own, if my art means anything beyond our family name. Juliana, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. I have to prove it to myself." The Cox estate had been Juliana's home for 23 years. Luxury beyond most people's imagination. Servants, drivers, private schools, every door open because of her last name. And Juliana was grateful. She loved her father. She appreciated everything she'd been given. But she needed to know who she was without it. So she left, walked out with a backpack, some clothes, her art supplies, and a determination to build a life that meant something beyond her inheritance. Her father had tried to change her mind. "At least take some money, enough to get you started." "No, if I take money, it defeats the whole purpose. Where will you live? I'll find something. What will you do? I'll paint. I'll sell my art. I'll make it work. And if you can't, then I'll figure it out. Dad, I love you, but I need to do this." Richard Cox had looked at his daughter, stubborn and determined, and so much like him, and he let her go. "Call me if you need anything at all. Promise me." "I promise." But Juliana never called, not once in 3 years. She found a tiny apartment in the arts district, barely bigger than a closet, with a window that overlooked a fire escape, and walls thin enough to hear every conversation in the building. It was perfect. She worked at coffee shops during the day, painted at night, sold pieces at weekend art markets for whatever she could get, sometimes $50, sometimes $20. Once, memorably, $15 and a sandwich because the buyer was also broke but loved her work. It was hard. God, it was hard. There were nights she ate ramen for dinner 3 days in a row. Mornings she chose between buying paint or paying for the subway. Winters, when her apartment was so cold, she painted wearing 3 sweaters and fingerless gloves. But it was hers. Every struggle, every victory, every painting that sold, it was because of her talent and her work, not because of her name. And slowly, gradually, she started to make it. Her paintings began appearing in small galleries. Art bloggers started noticing her work. She got her first real exhibition at a community gallery space. The opening night of that exhibition changed everything. Juliana stood in the gallery, nervous and excited, watching people examine her paintings. These were pieces she'd created over 2 years. Landscapes mostly, but with something extra, something emotional, something that made people stop and really look. And then he walked in. Aidan Sanders, tall, handsome, expensively dressed. He moved through the gallery with the confidence of someone who belonged everywhere he went. He stopped in front of one of her paintings, a sunset over the city, but painted in a way that made the buildings look like they were dreaming. He stood there for 5 minutes, just looking, not the polite 30-second glance most people gave, really looking. Finally, he turned and found Juliana. "Are you the artist?" "I am. This is extraordinary, the way you've captured the light. It's like the city is alive." "Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to show. I'm Aidan Sanders. Juliana Cox." She'd used her real last name. It felt important to paint under her true identity, even if nobody knew who the Cox family was in art circles. They talked for an hour, about art, about the city, about dreams and ambitions. Aidan told her he worked in his family business. Corporate stuff, boring compared to art. Juliana told him about her journey as a painter, carefully leaving out the part about her father's billions. "Can I take you to dinner?" Aidan asked. "I'd love to hear more about your work." Juliana hesitated. She'd dated occasionally over the past 3 years, but nothing serious. She'd been too focused on her art, on proving herself. But there was something about Aidan, something warm in his eyes, something genuine in his interest. I'd like that. Dinner became coffee. Coffee became walks through the city. Walks became weekends together. And before Juliana quite realized what was happening, she was falling in love. Aidan was charming, attentive. He brought her flowers. showed up at her tiny apartment with takeout from nice restaurants, stood in her cramped studio and told her she was going to be famous someday. "You're so talented, Juliana. The world needs to see your work. I'm just trying to pay rent. You're doing more than that. You're creating beauty. That matters." He took her to nice dinners, showed her parts of the city she'd never seen, introduced her to people in the arts community, and through it all, he never made her feel less than him, even though his suits cost more than her monthly rent. After 6 months, he proposed. They were in her apartment. Juliana had just finished a painting she was particularly proud of. Aiden had brought champagne to celebrate. "Marry me." Juliana had laughed, thinking he was joking. "Marry me, Juliana. I love you. I love your passion, your talent, your strength. I love how hard you work. I love how you see beauty in everything. Marry me and let me support your art. Let me be part of your life. Aiden, we've only known each other 6 months. I don't care. I know what I want. And I want you." He pulled out a ring. Not ostentatious, but clearly expensive. Juliana's heart had raced. This was it. This was the authentic love she'd been searching for. Someone who loved her for her art, her passion, herself. Someone who didn't know about her billions and loved her anyway. Yes, I'll marry you. The wedding was small. Aiden had wanted something bigger, but Juliana insisted on keeping it intimate. "Just close friends," she'd said. The truth was, she didn't want her father there asking uncomfortable questions about whether Aiden knew who she really was. She'd sent her father a text. "Getting married. I'm happy. I'll introduce you to him soon." Richard had called immediately. "Married? To who?" "Juliana, I need to meet this man. I need to make sure he's right for you." "He is, Dad. I promise. I'll bring him by soon. I want to do this my way first. Does he know about the family?" "No, and I want to keep it that way for now. Please, Dad. Trust me." Richard had been silent for a long moment. "I trust you, but promise me you'll be careful. Promise me if anything goes wrong, you'll call." "I promise." But Juliana had no idea what she was promising. Had no idea what she was walking into. The wedding day had been beautiful. Sunny, warm, perfect. Juliana wore a simple white dress she'd found at a vintage shop. Aiden wore a designer suit. They exchanged vows in a small garden venue, and Juliana noticed, for the first time, how often Aiden checked his phone during the reception. "Is everything okay? Just my mother. She's upset she wasn't invited. I thought you said she was traveling." "She was. She got back early. She's very traditional about these things. Family events. We can visit her tomorrow. I'd love to meet her." Something had flickered across Aiden's face. Something that looked almost like anxiety. "Sure. Yes. Tomorrow." That night, their wedding night, they'd driven to the Sanders estate. Aiden had insisted. Said his mother wanted to meet Juliana, wanted to welcome her to the family. Juliana had been nervous but excited. She wanted to make a good impression on her new mother-in-law. The Sanders mansion was stunning, enormous, old money elegance. Marble and crystal and art that Juliana recognized as genuine pieces worth millions. "Your family has beautiful taste. My mother is very particular about aesthetics." They'd walked through massive doors into an entrance hall that echoed with their footsteps. And there, standing at the base of a grand staircase, was Bethany Sanders. She was in her late 50s, perfectly put together, wearing pearls and a designer dress. Her hair was styled immaculately, her makeup flawless. She looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine about wealthy society. "Mother, this is Juliana, my wife." Bethany's eyes had traveled over Juliana slowly, taking in her vintage wedding dress, her simple shoes, the lack of expensive jewelry, the paint stains on her hands that she hadn't quite been able to scrub off. "Your wife." The words had sounded like an accusation. "Yes, we got married this afternoon. I'm so happy to meet you, Mrs. Sanders." Juliana had extended her hand. Bethany had looked at it like it might be diseased. "I see. Mother, I know this is sudden, but..." "Sudden? You married a stranger without consulting your family, without my presence, without any consideration for propriety or tradition. I love her." Love. Bethany had said the word like it was something distasteful. "Aiden, darling, can I speak with you privately?" "Mother, now," and Aiden had gone. Just followed his mother into another room. leaving Juliana standing alone in the massive entrance hall. She'd waited for 20 minutes, standing there in her wedding dress, increasingly uncomfortable, wondering what was happening behind the closed door. When they'd returned, Aiden's face had been pale, defeated. "Juliana, my mother has graciously agreed to let us stay here at the estate. I thought we were getting our own place. Aiden's apartment is here. It makes sense to stay until we figure out our long-term plans." That had been the first lie. There would be so many more. Bethany had smiled, a cold smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome to the Sanders family, Juliana. I'm sure we'll all get along wonderfully. Now, let me show you to your room." "Our room," Juliana had corrected. Of course, but Bethany had led them up 3 flights of stairs to a small room on the top floor, a room that was clearly meant for staff. Single bed, small window, plain furniture. "This is where you'll stay, Juliana." "I don't understand." "My son needs his rest. He has important work to do. You'll stay here until you've proven yourself as a proper wife." "Mother, I don't think." "Aiden, we discussed this. This is how it's done in proper families. She needs to earn her place." And Juliana had looked at her husband of exactly 6 hours, waiting for him to argue, to defend her, to insist they stay together. But Aiden had just nodded. "Whatever you think is best, Mother." And that was the moment Juliana's dreams began to die. The first morning in the Sanders estate, Juliana had woken up alone in the small 3rd-floor room, her wedding dress hanging on the back of the door, her husband somewhere else in the massive house. She'd gone downstairs trying to find the kitchen, trying to find Aiden, trying to understand what was happening. She'd found Bethany in the dining room having coffee and reading the newspaper. "Good morning, Mrs. Sanders." Bethany had looked up. "You're awake. Good. The floors need scrubbing." "I'm sorry. The marble floors. They need to be cleaned. A proper wife maintains her husband's home. Or didn't they teach you that wherever you came from?" The words had been delivered with such casual cruelty that Juliana had actually taken a step back. "First, I'm not a housekeeper. I'm your daughter-in-law. You're whatever I say you are. This is my house, my son, my family. And you, my dear, are a charity case that my son took pity on. The least you can do is make yourself useful." Aiden had walked in then, dressed for work, looking polished and professional. "Aiden, your mother wants me to scrub the floors. Mother knows how this household runs. We should listen to her. But I'm your wife, and she's my mother. She's been running this estate for 30 years. She knows what she's doing." Juliana had felt something crack inside her chest. "So I'm supposed to clean the house? Is that such a hardship? My mother is offering us a place to live. The least we can do is contribute." "We or me?" Aiden had looked uncomfortable. "I have to go to work. We can talk about this later." And he'd left, just walked out, leaving Juliana standing there with his mother, who was watching her with cold satisfaction. "The bucket and supplies are in the utility closet. Start with the entrance hall and work your way back. And Juliana, don't miss any corners." I check. That first day, Juliana had scrubbed floors for 6 hours. Her knees ached. Her back screamed. Her hands, used to holding paintbrushes, cramped around the cleaning brush. Bethany had walked past multiple times, checking her work, pointing out spots she'd missed. "There, you see that? That's what happens when you rush. Do it again." By evening, Juliana had been exhausted. She'd tried to join Aiden and Bethany for dinner, but Bethany had stopped her. "You're not dressed appropriately. And frankly, you smell like cleaning supplies. Perhaps you should eat in your room tonight." Aiden had said nothing, just sat down at the table and let his mother serve him. Juliana had gone back to her 3rd-floor room, sat on the narrow bed, and cried. This wasn't what she'd signed up for. This wasn't the marriage she'd imagined. But she told herself it was temporary. Told herself that once she and Aiden got their own place, everything would be different. He'd be different. They'd build the life they'd talked about. She just had to endure for a little while. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And the situation only got worse. Bethany had rules for everything. What Juliana could wear, where she could go, when she could speak, how she should address guests, what she should eat, how she should style her hair. "You look like you just rolled out of bed. Fix yourself before you embarrass this family. That dress is completely inappropriate. Don't you have anything that doesn't look like it came from a thrift shop? Smile when you serve the dinner. No one wants to see your sullen face. And Aiden? God. Aiden never defended her, never stood up for her, never questioned his mother's treatment. Every time Juliana tried to talk to him, really talk to him, about what was happening, he shut down. Aiden, your mother is treating me like a servant. She's just particular about her home. It's not personal. It feels personal. You're being too sensitive. I'm being humiliated. Juliana, I have a lot of pressure at work. Can we not do this right now? When can we do this? You're never around. I'm providing for us. I'm doing my best. Your best would be standing up for your wife. My mother has done everything for me. I can't just disrespect her. And there it was. The truth. Bethany came first. Bethany would always come first. Juliana's art supplies sat untouched in a corner of her small room. She had no time to paint. No energy. No inspiration. The thing she'd left her fortune to pursue had been buried under cleaning, schedules and dinner preparations and endless exhausting submission. She tried once to set up an easel in her room, to paint something, anything, to remember who she was. Bethany had seen it when she came to inspect the room. What is this mess? My painting supplies. Get rid of them. This isn't a studio. This is a bedroom in my home, and it will be kept neat and appropriate. But painting is what I do. It's who I am. What you do is whatever I tell you to do. Now remove this clutter before dinner. And Juliana had packed away her paints, stored her easel in the back of the closet, let another piece of herself disappear. Bethany's friends would come for tea parties, elaborate affairs with expensive china and catered food, and Juliana would serve them, walking around the sitting room with trays of pastries and tea, while the women talked about her like she wasn't there. I don't know what Aiden was thinking. Such a strange choice. I heard she was living in some terrible apartment when he found her, barely making rent. How charitable of him to take her in. Does she have any family? None that claim her, apparently. And Bethany would sit there, playing the martyr. We do what we can. It's our Christian duty to help those less fortunate. The words cut. Every single time. Because Juliana couldn't defend herself. Couldn't tell them who she really was. Couldn't explain that she'd walked away from more money than all of them combined. Because doing that would mean admitting her entire journey had been pointless. Would mean acknowledging that she'd failed at building a life on her own. So she stayed silent, endured, hoped, and then, 7 months into her marriage, Juliana's period was late. She'd bought a pregnancy test from a pharmacy during one of her rare trips out of the estate, had taken it in her small bathroom with shaking hands. 2 pink lines. Pregnant. Juliana had sat on the bathroom floor, staring at the test, feeling a complicated rush of emotions. Terror, because bringing a baby into this situation seemed impossible. Hope, because maybe this would change things. Maybe Aiden would finally step up. Maybe becoming a father would wake him up. Love, because despite everything, this was a baby. A life. Something innocent and pure. She'd found Aiden that evening before Bethany could intercept. Caught him alone in his study. I need to tell you something. Can it wait? I have reports to review. No, it can't wait. He'd looked up, finally giving her his attention. I'm pregnant, Aiden. We're going to have a baby. For a moment, just a moment, something had flickered in his eyes. Something that might have been joy, might have been fear, might have been both. Does Mother know? And just like that, the flicker was gone. I wanted to tell you first. I thought you'd want to know. We need to tell Mother immediately. Aiden, can you just be here with me for a second? Can we just? This is our baby. Doesn't that matter to you? Of course it matters. That's why we need to tell Mother. She'll know what to do. What to do. Aiden, we're having a baby. There's nothing to do except be happy. But he was already standing, already moving toward the door. Come on, we should tell her now. They'd found Bethany in the sitting room as always. Aiden had delivered the news quickly, nervously. Mother, Juliana is pregnant. Bethany's face had gone completely still. No expression at all. Just frozen calculation. Pregnant. Yes, we're having a baby. How far along? About 6 weeks, I think. I see. The silence stretched out. Uncomfortable. Tense. Bethany stood, walked to where Juliana was standing, circled her slowly. Well, this is certainly unexpected. We're very happy about it, Juliana tried. Are you? Yes, of course. Because it seems quite convenient. Barely married a year and suddenly pregnant. Locking yourself into this family with a child. That's not... I didn't plan this. Didn't you? Mother, Bethany's hand came up, silencing Aiden without even looking at him. We'll need to verify everything, of course. Make sure this pregnancy is progressing properly. Make sure the child is healthy. Make sure it's actually a Sanders. The last words had hung in the air like poison. What are you implying? Juliana's voice shook. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. You came from nowhere. You have no family that we've met, no background that we can verify. For all we know, you were already pregnant when you trapped my son into marriage. That's insane. I've never been with anyone but Aiden. So you say, but we'll need proof. Proof? What kind of proof? Medical proof. Paternity testing. We need to be absolutely certain before we accept this child as a Sanders heir. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. This family has standards. We don't simply take the word of someone like you. Someone like me? Yes, someone from your background. Someone with your history. Juliana had turned to Aiden, desperate. Are you hearing this? Are you going to let your mother accuse me of cheating? Aiden had looked at his mother, then at Juliana, then back at his mother. Mother's just being cautious. It's not unreasonable. Not unreasonable? She's calling me a liar and a cheater. She's protecting the family. That's what she does. I'm your family now. Me, your wife, the mother of your child. Let's just do the tests, okay? Then there won't be any questions. And Juliana had understood then. Really understood. Aiden was never going to choose her. Not over his mother. Not ever. That night, Juliana had lain awake in her narrow bed, one hand on her still flat stomach, and heard voices drifting up from below. She'd crept to the top of the stairs, pressed herself against the wall, and listened. Bethany's voice, cold and calculating. If it's a boy, we take the child and send her away. A male heir belongs to the Sanders family, not to some nobody who wormed her way into our lives. Mother, we can't just... We can do whatever we want. This is our house, our family, our legacy. She's nothing, Aiden. She has no power, no family, no resources. What's she going to do? Fight us? We have lawyers, money, influence. She has nothing. But what if it's a girl? A girl is worthless. No value to the family line. If it's a girl, we make her life so unbearable that she leaves on her own, takes her mistake with her, and you can start over with someone appropriate. Someone appropriate? I've been thinking about the Hartley girl, Vivienne. She's perfect for you. Good family, good education, proper breeding. The kind of woman who should have been my daughter-in-law from the start. Juliana had run back to her room, locked the door, curled up on her bed and shook with silent sobs. They were planning to take her baby. If it was a boy, they'd steal him and throw her out. If it was a girl, they'd make her so miserable she'd abandon her own child. She picked up her phone. Her father's number right there. One call, and this nightmare would be over. One call, and she could reveal who she really was. Show them that she had more money, more power, more influence than the Sanders family could ever dream of. Her finger hovered over the call button, but she couldn't do it. Couldn't admit that her grand experiment in independence had failed so spectacularly. Couldn't go running back to her father's money after insisting she didn't need it. Pride. Stupid, destructive pride. So she didn't call. Stayed silent. Endured. The pregnancy progressed. Juliana's body changed. Her belly grew. Her ankles swelled. Her back ached constantly. And Bethany's cruelty intensified. You're getting fat. Pregnancy is no excuse for letting yourself go. The floors still need scrubbing. I don't care if your back hurts. Make dinner for 8. Mother's having guests. And try to look presentable, though I know that's asking a lot. Juliana cleaned. She cooked. She served. All while growing a human being inside her body. All while being slowly starved. Because that's what Bethany was doing. Controlling all the food in the house. Giving Juliana minimal portions. You don't need to eat for 2. That's a myth. You're just getting unnecessarily large. Juliana tried to eat more. Tried to sneak food from the kitchen. But Bethany seemed to have eyes everywhere. Were you in the pantry? I was hungry. There are designated meal times. If you're still hungry, perhaps you should eat slower. Savor your food instead of gorging yourself. The doctor's appointments were torture. Bethany insisted on coming to every single one. Sat in the examination room with her arms crossed, watching, listening, controlling. The doctor was a man named Marcus Chen. Polished, professional, and clearly intimidated by Bethany Sanders. Everything looks healthy, he would say. Baby is developing normally. And the gender? When can we determine the gender? That's all Bethany cared about. The gender. Whether this baby would be valuable or worthless. At the 20-week ultrasound, they found out. Juliana had lain on the examination table, the gel on her belly, the wand moving across her skin, watching the screen where her baby floated in grainy black and white. Would you like to know the gender? Dr. Chen asked. Yes, Bethany said immediately. Dr. Chen moved the wand, adjusted the angle, studied the screen. Congratulations. It's a girl. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Juliana saw Bethany's face change, saw the cold calculation, saw the decision being made. A girl, Bethany repeated. How? Disappointing. Not disappointing, Juliana said quickly. Wonderful. I'm having a daughter. If it's even my son's child, the accusation again. The poison. The lie. She's Aiden's daughter. I've never been with anyone else. So you keep saying. We'll see what the tests reveal. The ride home from that appointment was silent. Bethany staring out the window. Aiden driving with white knuckles. Juliana in the back seat, one hand on her belly, whispering to her daughter, I'm sorry you're not what they wanted. But I want you. I love you already. That evening, Bethany made her announcement. Juliana, you have until the baby is born to find somewhere else to live. Excuse me? You heard me. You're carrying a girl who probably isn't even a Sanders. You have no value to this family. So, you'll leave the moment she's born. Mother, Aiden started weakly. Aiden, we've discussed this. She trapped you with a pregnancy. She's been living off our charity for months. Enough is enough. I'm your wife, Juliana said, her voice shaking. This is my home. This is my home. My house. And I want you out of it. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my concern. You should have thought about that before you decided to get pregnant with someone else's child. This is Aiden's child. Our child. Prove it. Fine. Let's do a paternity test. A real one. From an independent lab. Bethany had smiled. We will. We'll use our family doctor. Dr. Chen has been treating the Sanders family for 20 years. We trust him completely. And that's when Juliana should have known, should have realized, should have understood that Dr. Chen was just another person on Bethany's payroll. But she was so tired, so worn down, so desperate to prove the truth that she agreed. Fine. Let Dr. Chen run the tests. You'll see. You'll see I've been telling the truth. We certainly will. The next appointment was scheduled for the following week. Routine prenatal checkup. Or so Juliana thought. She arrived at Dr. Chen's office. Bethany was already there, waiting. Aiden came directly from work. Mrs. Sanders, Dr. Chen said as Juliana sat down. I'm glad you're all here. There's something we need to discuss. Is the baby okay? Juliana's hand went to her belly. The baby is fine. But there's been some irregularities. In the paternity testing. Juliana's heart stopped. What? Mr. Sanders, could I speak with you privately? No. Juliana stood. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of me. This is my baby. Dr. Chen looked at Bethany. Bethany nodded slightly. Very well. Mr. Sanders, I'm afraid the paternity test results show that you are not the biological father of this child. The room spun. Juliana grabbed the edge of the examination table. That's impossible. The tests don't lie, Mrs. Sanders. Then you ran the tests wrong. Or you mixed up samples. Or something. Because Aiden is the only man I've ever been with. The evidence is conclusive. Show me. Show me the results. Patient confidentiality prevents me from. I'm the patient. Show me the damn results. Mrs. Sanders, I understand you're upset, but you're lying. Juliana's voice rose. You're lying because she paid you to lie. She pointed at Bethany. That's a serious accusation, Dr. Chen said, but his eyes flickered. Just for a second. Guilty. Aiden, please. Juliana turned to her husband. Please tell me you don't believe this. Please tell me you know I've been faithful. But Aiden's face had already transformed. Shock turning to rage. Betrayal twisting his features. How could you? He said quietly. How could you do this to me? I didn't. I swear to God I didn't. The doctor just said. Medical proof, Juliana. Science doesn't lie. But I do? After everything, you think I'm lying? I don't know what to think. Think about who you married. Think about the woman you fell in love with. Think about whether I've ever given you a reason not to trust me. My mother warned me. She said you were after my money, after our family name. I didn't want to believe her, but what? Now you do? Because a doctor your mother chose said something that's impossible. It's not impossible if you were cheating. I wasn't cheating. Then whose baby is it? Yours. She's yours, Aiden. Our daughter. Don't call her our daughter. Don't you dare. And he'd walked out. Just turned and left. Left Juliana standing there with Dr. Chen and Bethany, her whole world crumbling. Bethany had smiled. Triumphant. Well, I suppose that settles things. You'll be leaving tonight. I'm not leaving. You don't have a choice. I have every choice. I'm not going anywhere until we get a real paternity test from a real doctor, not someone you've paid off. Careful, Juliana. You're making accusations you can't prove. Can't I? And for just a moment, Juliana considered it. Considered calling her father. Considered unleashing the full power of the Cox family resources. Considered destroying Bethany Sanders and her corrupt doctor and this entire nightmare. But she didn't. Pride again. Stupid pride. You have until morning, Bethany said. Pack your things. Get out of my house. This isn't over. Oh, darling. It's been over from the beginning. You just didn't know it yet. That night, Juliana lay awake, feeling her daughter move inside her, knowing she had to make a decision, stay and fight, or leave and figure out her next move. She was still deciding when her water broke. It was 2 a.m. A storm had moved in, wind howling, rain starting to pound the windows, thunder rolling across the sky, and Juliana felt the gush of fluid, felt the first sharp contraction tear through her abdomen. The baby was coming. She got up, got dressed as best she could, grabbed her phone, and went to find Aiden. He was in the study with Bethany. Even at 2 a.m, they were awake, planning, plotting. Juliana opened the door. I need help. The baby's coming. My water broke. I need to get to a hospital. And that's where we started. That's the conversation you heard at the beginning of this story. Aiden's cold response, Bethany's cruelty, the storm raging outside, the door opening, the push, the fall, the lock turning, the lights going out. Juliana crawled. She crawled down that driveway while lightning split the sky and rain soaked. Through her clothes and contractions came every 45 seconds. She prayed, begged God to save her baby, to send someone, anyone. And then, headlights, a car, slowing, stopping, a man getting out, running toward her. Jesus Christ. Ma'am, can you hear me? Juliana looked up into the face of a stranger. Help me. Please help my baby. I've got you. I'm going to get you to a hospital. He was already calling ahead, already lifting her, already saving her life. The man's name was Aaron Ward, billionaire philanthropist, someone who knew loss, someone who understood exactly what it meant to lose everything. He drove through the storm like the hounds of hell were chasing him, called ahead to the hospital, kept talking to Juliana, keeping her conscious. Tell me about the baby. A girl. They told me it was a girl. That's when everything got worse. They wanted a boy, said a girl was worthless. Aaron's hands tightened on the steering wheel. No child is worthless. They are to the Sanders family. The Sanders? You're talking about the Sanders estate back there? Yes. They threw you out? During a storm? While you're in labor? Yes. In Aaron's mind, decisions were being made. Plans forming. Justice preparing to strike. Hold on. We're almost there. The hospital appeared through the rain. Medical team waiting outside. They lifted Juliana onto a gurney, rushed her inside. Aaron followed. Don't leave me. Juliana grabbed his hand. Please don't leave me alone. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. And he'd kept that promise. Stayed through the emergency cesarean. Stayed through the complications. Stayed through the moment when the doctor said it's a girl and a thin, angry cry filled the room. She's here, Juliana sobbed. My baby girl. They brought the baby to her. Small but healthy. Perfect. Rose, Juliana whispered. Her name is Rose. Aaron looked at this tiny life, this miracle that had survived such horror, and felt something crack open in his chest, something that had been frozen since he'd lost his own wife and child. She's beautiful. There were complications, the doctor said gently. We had to perform a hysterectomy. You won't be able to have more children. Juliana looked at Rose, at this perfect, precious daughter. She's enough. She's more than enough. And in that moment, in that hospital room, with a stranger who'd become a savior standing beside her, Juliana made a decision. She was done hiding, done being ashamed, done letting pride destroy her. The Sanders family had no idea what they'd just done, had no idea who they'd thrown away. But they were about to find out. And the revelation would destroy them. Recovery took time. Not just physical recovery, though Juliana's body needed weeks to heal from the emergency surgery, but emotional recovery, mental recovery, the kind of healing that happens when you've been broken down so completely that you have to rebuild yourself from scratch. Aaron's estate became Juliana's sanctuary. He gave her and Rose an entire wing of the house, beautiful rooms filled with natural light, a nursery that had been set up while Juliana was still in the hospital, soft colors, comfortable furniture, everything a new mother could need. It was the complete opposite of the Sanders mansion. Where Bethany's home had been cold and unwelcoming, Aaron's home was warm. Where the Sanders estate had felt like a prison, Aaron's estate felt like safety. The staff treated Juliana with kindness and respect. The cook brought her nutritious meals 3 times a day. The housekeeper, a gentlewoman named Margaret, helped with Rose when Juliana needed to rest. For the first time in over a year, Juliana felt like a human being instead of a servant. Aaron checked on her every day, brought her books, sat with her while she nursed Rose, held the baby so Juliana could shower or nap or just have a moment to herself. He never asked for anything in return, never made her feel like she owed him, just offered help freely, generously, without strings. One evening, about a week after Rose was born, Juliana found Aaron in the nursery. He was holding Rose, walking slowly back and forth, humming softly. The baby was asleep in his arms, completely peaceful. You're good with her, Juliana said from the doorway. Aaron looked up, smiled. She's easy. Sleeps like an angel when you hold her just right. Thank you. For everything. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You don't need to repay me, Juliana. I'm just glad I was there that night. Why? Why do you care so much about a stranger? Aaron was quiet for a long moment. He gently placed Rose in her crib, made sure she was settled, then turned to Juliana. Can we talk? Somewhere private. They went to the sitting room. Large windows overlooking the estate gardens. Comfortable chairs. A fireplace burning low. Aaron poured them both tea, sat down across from Juliana, and told her his story. 5 years ago, I was married. Her name was Elizabeth. We'd been together since college. She was everything. Smart, funny, kind. We were so happy. He paused, took a breath. She got pregnant. We were thrilled. Started planning the nursery, picking out names, dreaming about our future. Everything seemed perfect. What happened? Complications during labor. The baby, our son, he was stillborn. And Elizabeth, she hemorrhaged. They couldn't stop the bleeding. I held her hand and watched her slip away, and there was nothing I could do. Aaron's voice broke. I'm so sorry, Juliana whispered. I had all this money, all this power and influence, but none of it mattered. I couldn't save them. For 5 years, I've been existing, going through the motions, working, attending events, doing all the things I'm supposed to do. But I've been dead inside. He looked at Juliana, and then I found you in that storm. And I watched you fight so hard to save your baby, watched you survive something that should have killed you both. And when Rose was born, when I heard her cry, something in me woke up, something I thought was gone forever. What? Hope, the belief that good things can still happen, that life is still worth living. You and Rose reminded me of that. Juliana felt tears sliding down her cheeks. You saved our lives. You saved mine too, just in a different way. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the fire crackling, the evening settling around them. Finally, Juliana spoke. There's something I need to tell you, something I haven't told anyone in 3 years. You don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to share. I need to, because you deserve the truth. And because what's coming next is going to be complicated, and you should know what you're getting into. What's coming next? Aaron, the Sanders family. They're not going to just let this go. When they find out Rose survived, when they realize I survived, they're going to come after us. They're going to try to take Rose. They have money, lawyers, influence. So do I. I know. But there's something you don't know about me. Juliana took a deep breath. My full name is Juliana Elizabeth Cox. I'm the daughter of Richard Cox, founder and CEO of Cox Technologies. Aaron's eyebrows rose slightly. The Cox Technologies? The tech company worth about $8 billion. Yes. You're Richard Cox's daughter? Yes. Aaron sat back, processing. The Sanders family. They have no idea. No one knows. I left home 3 years ago. Changed how I lived. Started going by just Juliana Cox without explaining the connection. I wanted to make it as an artist on my own merit. I didn't want my father's money or name. So, you've been… what? Pretending to be poor? Not pretending exactly. I really was living on my art income. Really was struggling. I didn't tell anyone I could end that struggle with one phone call. Does your father know what happened to you? No. I haven't spoken to him since before the wedding. He wanted to meet Aiden, wanted to vet him, but I refused. I was so determined to do everything on my own. Juliana's voice broke. And look where that got me. Married to a monster. Abused for a year. Nearly killed. If you hadn't found me, you survived. That's what matters. I survived because of you. But Aaron, when this goes to court, when the Sanders family tries to claim Rose, I'm going to have to reveal who I really am. I'm going to have to use my father's resources, his lawyers, his influence. Good. Use every advantage you have. They certainly won't hesitate to use theirs. You're not. You don't think I'm a fraud for hiding my identity? Are you kidding? You gave up billions to pursue your passion. That takes courage, real courage. The Sanders family judged you, abused you, nearly killed you because they thought you were poor and powerless. When they find out the truth, when they realize the woman they treated like garbage is worth more than their entire estate, that's going to be justice. Juliana smiled through her tears. I need to call my father. Do you want privacy? No, stay. Please. She pulled out her phone, stared at her father's contact information. 3 years. 3 years of silence. She pressed call. It rang twice. Juliana? Her father's voice. Familiar, worried, full of love. Hi, Dad. Oh my God. Juliana, are you okay? Where are you? I've been so worried. I'm okay now. But Dad, something happened. Something terrible. And I need help. Tell me everything. So she did. The whole story. Meeting Aiden, the marriage, Bethany's cruelty, the fake paternity test, being thrown out in the storm, Rose's birth, Aaron saving them. Richard Cox listened in silence. When Juliana finished, his voice was shaking with rage. Give me their address. I'm going to destroy them. I'm going to. Dad, wait. I need you to help me the right way. Legal, proper, unassailable. They're going to come after Rose, try to claim custody. I need lawyers. The best lawyers. I need to make sure they can never touch my daughter. You'll have everything you need. Every resource. I'm calling our legal team right now. There's something else. What? I'm sorry. For shutting you out. For being too proud to call. For everything. Sweetheart, you have nothing to apologize for. You were trying to find your own path. There's no shame in that. I'm so grateful you're alive. That my granddaughter is alive. You want to meet her? More than anything. Richard Cox arrived at the Ward estate the next morning. He came alone, no assistant, no driver, just a father desperate to see his daughter. Juliana met him at the door with Rose in her arms. For a long moment they just stood there, looking at each other. 3 years of separation, worry, love, all compressed into a single moment. Then Richard pulled them both into his arms and wept. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there. So sorry you went through this alone. I'm not alone anymore." She introduced him to Aaron. The two men shook hands, sized each other up. "Thank you," Richard said simply. "Thank you for saving my daughter and granddaughter. I'd do it again in a heartbeat." Richard looked at Aaron for a long moment, saw something in his eyes. Understanding, respect, something more. "You're a good man, Mr. Ward." "I try to be." Over the following days, Richard's legal team descended. High-powered attorneys with decades of experience. They gathered evidence, compiled documentation, built a case that would be impossible to refute. Hospital records showing Juliana's condition when she arrived. Photographs of her malnourished state. Medical testimony from the emergency room staff. Weather reports from the night of the storm. Satellite imagery. Meteorological data proving the severity of the conditions. And the security footage. Aaron had gone back to the Sanders estate the morning after finding Juliana, and approached the gate, claimed to be looking for a lost dog, and while the guard was distracted, his security expert had accessed the driveway camera system remotely. They had everything. Juliana being pushed out the door, falling on the steps, pounding on the locked door, crawling down the driveway. Every horrific second captured in grainy but damning detail. The lawyers also investigated Dr. Marcus Chen, found the deposit into his account, $250,000 transferred from an account controlled by Bethany Sanders, deposited the day before he delivered his fake diagnosis. Phone records showed multiple calls between Bethany and Dr. Chen in the weeks leading up to that appointment. "We have them," the lead attorney said. "This is fraud, conspiracy, medical malpractice, and attempted murder. The Sanders family is going to prison. But first, they had to wait, because the Sanders family didn't know yet that Juliana had survived, didn't know Rose had been born healthy, didn't know they'd been seen, recorded, caught. That changed 2 weeks after Rose's birth. A news story broke. Local billionaire Aaron Ward welcomes new house guest, mystery woman, and newborn baby daughter staying at Ward Estate. The story was vague. No names, no details, just enough to catch attention. And it caught Bethany Sanders' attention immediately. She called Aaron directly. "Mr. Ward, this is Bethany Sanders. I believe you have something that belongs to my family." "I don't know what you're talking about, Mrs. Sanders. My son's wife, and his child. I know she's at your estate. I want them returned immediately." "Your son's wife? You mean the woman you threw out in a storm while she was in labor?" Silence on the other end of the line. "I have no idea what you're referring to. Juliana left of her own accord. If she's told you otherwise, she's lying." "Interesting, because I have security footage that tells a very different story." More silence. Longer this time. "I don't know what you think you have, but I have footage of you pushing a pregnant woman out your front door during a thunderstorm. I have footage of her falling on your steps. I have footage of her pounding on your locked door while lightning struck around her. Should I continue?" "Mr. Ward, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding. You tried to kill Juliana and her baby. You failed. And now you're going to pay for what you did. Are you threatening me?" "I'm promising you. See you in court, Mrs. Sanders." He hung up. An hour later, the Sanders family filed a police report, claiming Juliana had been kidnapped, claiming Aaron was holding her against her will, claiming their newborn grandson was being kept from them. It was a desperate move, a transparent attempt to control the narrative before the truth came out. The media picked up the story immediately. Desperate family searches for missing daughter-in-law and newborn grandson. Billionaire accused of kidnapping. Sanders family pleads for return of baby. Bethany and Aiden did interviews. Sat in their mansion looking dignified and grieving. Told lies with straight faces. "We just want our family back," Bethany said to the cameras, dabbing at dry eyes. Juliana was troubled, vulnerable. This man took advantage of her. "I love my wife," Aiden said, reading from a script his mother had clearly written. "I love my son. Please, if anyone knows where they are, help us bring them home." It was a masterful performance, and it might have worked if Aaron hadn't called his own press conference the next day. News vans lined up outside the Ward estate. Reporters crowded the gates. Cameras ready. Aaron stood on the front steps, composed, angry, righteous. I'm going to make a brief statement. I won't be taking questions at this time. The camera's focused. 3 weeks ago, I found Juliana Cox lying in the road during a severe thunderstorm. She was 9 months pregnant, in active labor, and had been thrown out of her home by her husband and mother-in-law. Murmurs went through the crowd of reporters. I brought her to the hospital where she safely delivered a healthy baby girl. Since then, Ms. Cox and her daughter have been guests in my home, recovering from their ordeal. She is here of her own free will. She is not being held against her will. She is simply a woman who needed help, and I provided it. Mr. Ward, a reporter shouted, what about the kidnapping charges? There was no kidnapping. Miss Cox will testify to that in court, as will the medical staff who treated her injuries from being thrown out of her home during a storm. The real question, Aaron continued, his voice hardening, isn't why I helped her. The real question is why a pregnant woman was thrown into a storm in the first place. Another reporter called out, Mr. Sanders claims the baby isn't his. Is that why his wife left? Mr. Sanders was told a lie by a corrupt doctor who was paid to destroy his marriage. Medical records will prove that the baby is indeed his biological daughter. But Mr. Sanders chose to believe that lie and used it as an excuse to abuse his pregnant wife. Aaron's eyes were steel. This isn't a story about kidnapping. This is a story about domestic abuse, fraud, and the attempted murder of a pregnant woman and her unborn child. The press conference exploded with questions, but Aaron simply turned and walked back into his estate, leaving the reporters to process what he just revealed. Inside, Juliana was watching on television with her father and Aaron's legal team. They're going to come after us hard now, the lead attorney said. Good, Richard Cox said. Let them come. We're ready. And they were. The custody battle was scheduled to begin in 2 weeks. 2 weeks for both sides to prepare. 2 weeks for Juliana to gather her strength. 2 weeks for the Sanders family to realize they'd made the biggest mistake of their lives. Juliana spent those 2 weeks healing, bonding with Rose, reconnecting with her father, and getting to know Aaron. They would sit together in the evenings after Rose was asleep, talking about everything and nothing, art and business and loss and hope. What will you do after this is all over? Aaron asked one night. I don't know. I haven't let myself think that far ahead. You're an incredible artist. You should get back to painting. Maybe, if I can find the inspiration again, you will. Art comes from experience, emotion, and you've certainly had enough of both. What about you? What do you do when you're not rescuing people in storms? Aaron laughed. I run my company, Ward Technologies. We focus on sustainable energy solutions. So you save the planet and individual people. Quite the resume. I do what I can. They smiled at each other, and something passed between them. Something warm. Something that felt like the beginning of something neither of them was quite ready to name. But there was no time for that now. The court date was approaching. The day before the hearing, Juliana's legal team did a final preparation session. They're going to attack your character, the lead attorney said. They're going to paint you as an opportunist, a gold digger, someone who trapped, Aiden into marriage and then tried to pass off another man's child as his. Let them try, Juliana said quietly. We have the evidence to refute every claim, but you need to be prepared. It's going to be ugly. I've survived ugly before. I can do it again. Good. Because tomorrow we're not just defending you, we're destroying them. That night, Juliana couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, listening to Rose breathing softly in the bassinet beside her, thinking about what was coming. Tomorrow, the truth would come out. All of it. The abuse, the lies, the corruption, and her secret, her identity, the fact that she was worth more than the Sanders family could comprehend. Part of her was terrified. Part of her was ready. She thought about the girl she'd been 3 years ago. Idealistic, determined, convinced she could build a meaningful life without her family's money. She thought about the woman she'd become in the Sanders mansion. Broken down, humiliated, nearly destroyed. And she thought about who she was now. A mother, a survivor, someone who'd crawled through a storm and lived to tell about it. Tomorrow, she would face her abusers. And she would win. She had to. For Rose. For herself. For every woman who'd ever been made to feel worthless by people who should have loved her. The courthouse was packed. Reporters lined the hallways. Spectators filled every seat in the gallery. This was the scandal everyone wanted to witness. Juliana sat at the plaintiff's table, Aaron beside her for moral support, though he wasn't party to the case. Her father on her other side. The legal team arrayed around them like an army. Across the aisle, Bethany and Aiden Sanders sat with their own lawyers. Bethany looked imperious as ever. Perfectly styled, designer suit. Pearls, playing the role of respectable matriarch. Aiden looked uncomfortable, kept glancing at Juliana. She refused to meet his eyes. And beside Aiden, positioned perfectly, sat Vivian Hartley, the replacement, the woman Bethany had chosen to be the next Mrs. Sanders, present as a visual statement. Look what Aiden could have. Look what he would have once this unpleasant business with Juliana was resolved. The judge entered. Everyone rose. The bailiff called the court to order, and the battle began. The Sanders family lawyer stood first, a tall man with silver hair and a voice like honey. Your Honor, my clients are loving parents who have been cruelly separated from their newborn granddaughter by a man with more money than morals. Mr. Aaron Ward, using his wealth and influence, has kidnapped Miss Juliana Cox and her infant daughter, holding them against their will while filling her head with lies about her loving husband and concerned mother-in-law. Juliana's hands clenched in her lap. Every word was a lie, but spoken with such conviction. My client, Aiden Sanders, is a devoted husband whose wife was led astray. He took pity on a struggling artist, offered her a better life, and this is how she repaid him. With infidelity and deception. The lawyer painted a picture. Juliana as a gold digger, Aiden as a victim, Bethany as a concerned mother trying to protect her son. He spoke of the paternity test, the medical evidence that supposedly proved Juliana's infidelity. He spoke of Juliana leaving the Sanders estate of her own accord, claimed she'd abandoned her husband, and then falsely accused the family of abuse to cover her own guilt. It was all lies. Smooth, practiced, believable lies. When he finished, the judge turned to Juliana's legal team. Your response? Juliana's lead attorney stood. A woman named Patricia Chen, no relation to the corrupt doctor. She was in her 50s, sharp as a blade, with a reputation for destroying opposing counsel. Your Honor, we have evidence that will prove every claim made by the Sanders family is not only false, but maliciously, criminally false. She presented the hospital records first. Juliana's condition when she arrived at the emergency room. The photographs made several people in the courtroom gasp. Juliana's skeletal frame, despite being 9 months pregnant. Bruises on her arms. Signs of long-term malnutrition and abuse. This is the condition Juliana Cox was in when she arrived at the hospital. Does this look like a woman who was living a good life with a loving husband? The Sanders lawyer objected. Relevance, Your Honor. We're here to discuss custody, not... This is completely relevant, Patricia interrupted, because it shows a pattern of abuse that directly endangers the child in question. The judge reviewed the photos. His expression grew darker with each image. Objection overruled. Continue. Patricia presented medical testimony next. Doctors and nurses who treated Juliana that night. Their statements were damning. Patient presented in acute distress. Advanced labor. Signs of prolonged malnutrition. Multiple bruises consistent with physical abuse. Patient was terrified, begging us not to send her back to her husband. Patient stated she'd been thrown out of her home during a storm. The Sanders lawyer tried to object again. Hearsay. But the medical records backed up every word. Then came the weather reports. Satellite imagery of the storm system that night. Wind speeds reaching 70 miles per hour. Rainfall totals. Lightning strikes. This was not a light rain, Patricia said. This was a dangerous, potentially deadly storm. No one would willingly be outside in these conditions, let alone a woman in active labor. She let that sink in. And now, the most damning evidence of all. The lights in the courtroom dimmed, a screen lowered, and the security footage began to play. The timestamp showed the date and time, 2:37 in the morning. The storm visible in the frame, rain sheeting down. The Sanders mansion's front door opened, lights spilled out, and 3 figures appeared. Bethany Sanders, Aiden Sanders, and Juliana, visibly pregnant in a nightgown. The audio was muffled by the storm, but words could be heard. Please, please don't do this. Get out. Get out of this house. I'm in labor. That's not my problem. The courtroom was silent. every eye fixed on the screen. The footage showed Bethany grabbing Juliana's arm, dragging her toward the door, Juliana resisting, begging, and then the push. Bethany's hands on Juliana's shoulders, shoving hard, Juliana stumbling, falling, landing hard on her knees on the front steps. Her scream of pain audible even through the storm. Behind her, the door slamming shut, the lock turning, Juliana pounding on the door, screaming to be let back in, the lights inside the mansion going off, one by one, until the house was completely dark, and Juliana, still on the steps, doubled over with another contraction, alone in the storm. The footage continued, showed her starting to crawl down the driveway, showed her collapsing halfway, showed her lying in the road, curled around her belly, clearly in agony. Then headlights, Aaron's car, him running to her, lifting her, carrying her to safety. The video ended. The lights came back up. Several people in the courtroom were crying. One woman in the gallery had her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. The judge's expression was thunderous. Aiden's face had gone white as paper. He turned to his mother. "Mother, did we really?" Bethany's mask was cracking, but she tried to maintain composure. "It wasn't. It doesn't look like that. The video doesn't show the full context." "What context?" Patricia asked coldly, "could possibly justify throwing a pregnant woman into a storm?" Bethany didn't answer. "Your Honor," Patricia continued, "we also have evidence of fraud." She called Dr. Marcus Chen to the stand. The doctor looked terrible. He'd aged years in the past few weeks. His medical license was already suspended pending investigation. His practice closed. His reputation destroyed. He took the stand with shaking hands. "Dr. Chen," Patricia began, "did you ever conduct paternity testing on Juliana Cox's pregnancy?" The silence stretched. Every person in the courtroom leaning forward. No, I did not. And yet you told Aiden Sanders that the child his wife was carrying was not biologically his. Why?" Dr. Chen's voice was barely a whisper. "Because Bethany Sanders paid me to lie." The courtroom erupted. Reporters typing frantically. Spectators gasping. The judge banging his gavel for order. "How much did she pay you?" $250,000. Patricia presented bank records. The transfer from an account controlled by Bethany Sanders to Dr. Chen's personal account, deposited the day before the fake diagnosis. Phone records showing multiple calls between Bethany and Dr. Chen in the weeks leading up to that appointment. The evidence was overwhelming. Undeniable. Bethany's lawyer looked shocked. He'd clearly not known the extent of his client's crimes. Aiden was staring at his mother with growing horror. "Mother, tell me that's not true. Tell me you didn't pay him to lie." Bethany's composure finally shattered completely. "I did what I had to do to protect you, to protect our family. That woman was beneath you, Aiden. She was trash, a nobody. I wasn't going to let her pollute the Sanders bloodline. She was my wife," Aiden's voice cracked. "She was a mistake, and I fixed it. By nearly killing her, by nearly killing my child." "Your child," Bethany spat. "We don't even know if that baby is yours." "Actually," Patricia interrupted, "we do." She presented new documents. Paternity test results from an independent laboratory, conducted 3 days earlier. Results that showed with 99.9% certainty that Rose Sanders was biologically Aiden's daughter. "The baby you nearly killed," Patricia said, looking directly at Bethany, "is your biological granddaughter. You tried to murder your own grandchild based on a lie you paid for." The judge called for a recess. The courtroom needed time to process what had just been revealed. During the break, Aiden tried to approach Juliana. "Juliana, please. Can we talk?" Security stepped between them. "Mr. Sanders, you need to return to your side of the courtroom. I just want to talk to her. Just for a minute. Please." Juliana looked at him. Really looked at him for the first time since the trial started. "What could you possibly have to say to me?" "I'm sorry. God, Juliana, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Mother told me." She said, "You chose to believe her. Over me. Over medical sense. Over basic human decency. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. But please, can I at least meet my daughter? Can I at least see her once? You lost that right when you threw us into a storm." Juliana's voice was quiet but firm. "You watched your mother push me out that door. You heard me begging. You knew I was in labor, and you did nothing. You're not a victim, Aiden. You're a coward." Aiden's face crumpled. "I'll do anything to make this right. There's nothing you can do. The damage is done." Security escorted Aiden back to his side of the courtroom. He sat down, broken, while his mother whispered urgently in his ear. Juliana watched them, felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness where her love for Aiden used to be. Aaron touched her shoulder gently. "You okay?" "I will be. Once this is over." The recess ended. Everyone returned to their seats. The judge looked grim. "Before we continue, I want to hear from Ms. Cox directly. Ms. Cox, would you like to testify?" "Yes, Your Honor." Juliana stood, walked to the witness stand, was sworn in. Patricia approached her gently. "Ms. Cox, can you tell the court about your marriage to Aiden Sanders?" And Juliana did. She told them everything. About meeting Aiden at the art gallery, the romance, the proposal, the hope she'd had for their future together. About the wedding day, being sent to the third-floor room. Bethany's first command to scrub the floors. About the year of servitude, the abuse, the humiliation, being treated like a servant in her own home. About the pregnancy, Bethany's accusations of infidelity, the threats about taking a male child or disposing of a female one. About the ultrasound revealing a daughter, the immediate change in how she was treated. About Dr. Chen's lie, Aiden's hatred, the complete destruction of any hope for her marriage. About the storm, being in labor, begging for help, being thrown out, falling on the steps, crawling down the driveway, believing she was going to die. She told it all, clearly, calmly, the truth needing no embellishment. When she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. The Sanders lawyer tried to cross-examine, tried to paint her as vindictive, as making up stories for sympathy. But every accusation fell flat against the mountain of evidence. "Miss Cox, isn't it true that you were after the Sanders family money all along?" "No." "Isn't it true that you trapped Mr. Sanders into marriage by getting pregnant?" "No." "I got pregnant after we were married, and the baby is biologically his, as the independent paternity test proves. Isn't it true that you left the Sanders estate voluntarily?" "I left crawling, in labor, after being physically thrown out. The security footage proves that." The lawyer had nothing. His client had lied to him, destroyed her own case with her actions, left him with no defense. He sat down, defeated. The judge looked at Juliana. "Miss Cox, is there anything else you'd like to add?" Juliana looked at Bethany, at Aiden, at Vivian Hartley, who was sitting very still, clearly wishing she was anywhere else. Then she looked at her father, at Aaron, at the legal team that had fought so hard for her, and she made her decision. "Actually, Your Honor, there is something the Sanders family doesn't know about me. Something I've kept hidden for 3 years." She reached into her bag, pulled out a folder, handed it to the judge. "My full legal name is Juliana Elizabeth Cox, daughter of Richard Cox, founder and CEO of Cox Technologies. Current net worth of my family, approximately $8 billion. The courtroom exploded, reporters shouting questions, spectators gasping, Bethany's face going slack with shock. Aiden looked like he might faint. The judge banged his gavel repeatedly. Order, order in this court. Slowly, the chaos subsided. Juliana continued, her voice steady. "I left my family's estate 3 years ago because I wanted to make my own way in the world. I wanted my art to succeed on its merits, not because of my family name. I was living on my own earnings, building my own life, when I met Aiden Sanders." She looked directly at her ex-husband. "I fell in love with who I thought you were. And when you proposed, I said yes, because I believed you loved me for me. Not for money, because you thought I had none. Not for status, because you thought I had none of that either." Her voice hardened. "Instead, you and your mother spent our entire marriage treating me like garbage. Literally, you called me trash from the slums. You made me sleep in a servant's room, made me scrub your floors, made me serve your mother's friends while they mocked me." She turned to Bethany. "You paid a doctor to lie about my baby's paternity. You threw me out in a storm when I was in labor. You were willing to let me die, to let my daughter die, all because you thought I was worthless." Tears were streaming down Juliana's face, but her voice never wavered. "But I'm not worthless. I never was. The only worthless things in this courtroom are your cruelty and your prejudice." She handed another folder to Patricia, who passed it to the judge. These are the results of an independent paternity test conducted by a laboratory that has no connection to either family. Rose Elizabeth Cox is biologically Aiden Sanders' daughter, which means, Mrs. Sanders, you nearly killed your own grandchild based on a lie you paid for. Bethany was speechless. For the first time since Juliana had known her, Bethany Sanders had absolutely nothing to say. The judge reviewed the documents. His expression grew darker with each page. Miss Cox, why didn't you reveal your identity sooner? Why endure such treatment when you had the resources to leave at any time? Because I wanted to believe that love mattered more than money, Juliana said softly. I wanted to prove that I could build a life based on who I am, not what I'm worth. And I wanted to give Aiden every chance to be the man I thought I'd married. She looked at Aiden one last time. But you never were that man, were you? You were always just your mother's puppet. The judge called another recess to review all the evidence. The courtroom buzzed with conversation. Reporters were already filing stories. Billionaire heiress reveals secret identity in shocking custody battle. Sanders family abused woman worth billions. The scandal was exploding beyond anything anyone had anticipated. Bethany tried to leave the courtroom, but police officers stopped her. Mrs. Sanders, we have a warrant for your arrest. On what charges? Conspiracy, fraud, attempted murder. You have the right to remain silent. This is ridiculous. I'll have my lawyers. You're going to need them. Handcuffs clicked around Bethany's wrists. She fought, screaming about injustice and persecution. You can't do this to me. Do you know who I am? Yes, ma'am. You're someone who tried to kill a pregnant woman and her baby. Dr. Chen was also arrested. He didn't fight, just went quietly, shoulders slumped, broken. Aiden wasn't arrested, but he was served with divorce papers and a restraining order. He tried one more time to approach Juliana. Please, please just let me see Rose. Just once. Let me hold my daughter. Officers held him back. Mr. Sanders, you need to stay away from Miss Cox and the child. She's my daughter. I have a right. You have no rights, one of the officers said firmly. You gave those up when you threw a pregnant woman into a storm. I didn't know. I didn't know the truth. Mother lied to me, manipulated me. You're a grown man, Juliana said quietly. You chose to believe those lies. You chose your mother over me, over our child, every single time. You don't get to claim ignorance now, Aiden. I love you. I'm sorry. Ersta, you don't love me. You never did. If you had, you would have protected me. You would have chosen me. You would have been a husband instead of a child. She looked at him, really looked at him. This man she'd married. This man she'd thought she'd spend her life with. Goodbye, Aiden. I hope someday you find the courage to be your own person instead of your mother's shadow. The officers led him away, still crying, still begging for one chance to see his daughter. But that chance would never come. When court reconvened an hour later, the judge's decision was swift and final. I have reviewed all the evidence presented to this court, and I am appalled by what I've seen. He looked at the space where Bethany had been sitting before her arrest. Mrs. Sanders subjected Ms. Cox to systematic abuse, fraud, medical malpractice, and attempted murder. The claim that Miss Cox was kidnapped is not only false but malicious, designed to cover up her own crimes. He turned to Juliana. Miss Cox, I'm granting you a divorce from Aiden Sanders, effective immediately. You are awarded full custody of Rose Elizabeth Cox with no visitation rights for Mr. Sanders given his participation in the abuse and his failure to protect his child. Your Honor, please. Aiden stood, his voice desperate. At least let me see my daughter. Just once. Let me hold her once. The judge's eyes were cold. You lost the right to see your daughter when you threw her mother into a storm, Mr. Sanders. You stood by while your mother abused a pregnant woman. You believed lies without question. You failed in every possible way a father can fail. The judge looked at his notes. Furthermore, I'm referring the cases of Bethany Sanders and Dr. Marcus Chen to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. The charges will include conspiracy to commit fraud, medical malpractice, and attempted murder. I'm recommending maximum sentences. As for you, Mr. Sanders, while you won't face criminal charges, you will face consequences. You're ordered to pay full child support, which will be placed in a trust for Rose. You're prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Miss Cox or her daughter. Any attempt to contact them will result in immediate arrest. The gavel came down. Case closed. And just like that, it was over. Juliana walked out of that courtroom, a free woman, divorced, vindicated, protected by the full force of the law. Aaron was waiting for her outside. You did it. We did it, Juliana corrected. I couldn't have done this without you. What happens now? Now, Juliana smiled. I go home to my daughter, and I start figuring out who I am now, who I want to be. And who is that? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. The media circus continued for weeks. The Sanders family scandal was everywhere. News programs, magazines, social media. Bethany Sanders was sentenced to 15 years in prison. The judge called her actions a level of cruelty that shocks the conscience of this court. Dr. Marcus Chen received 10 years and the permanent revocation of his medical license. Aiden wasn't sent to prison, but he lost everything else. The Sanders Company board forced him out as CEO. His reputation was destroyed. Most of his friends abandoned him. Vivian Hartley quietly married someone else. Someone from her own social circle who came without the scandal and baggage. And Juliana? Juliana moved into a house on her father's estate. Not the main house. A separate residence that gave her independence while keeping her close to family. She set up a studio. Started painting again. For the first time in over a year, she picked up a brush and let herself create. The paintings that emerged were different from her earlier work. Darker, more emotional, more raw. They spoke of survival and loss and rebirth. An art dealer saw them and immediately offered her a show. Not because of her name, not because of the scandal, but because the work was extraordinary. Your pain is in every brushstroke, the dealer said. And so is your strength. People need to see this. The exhibition opened 6 months after the trial. The gallery was packed. Art critics, collectors, journalists, people who'd followed her story and wanted to see what she'd created. The reviews were unanimous. Brilliant, devastating, triumphant. Juliana Cox has created something rare, art that comes from authentic suffering and authentic survival. These paintings don't just show us what she endured. They show us how she overcame it. The paintings sold for significant sums. Money that Juliana donated to organizations supporting domestic violence survivors. I don't need the money, she told reporters. But other women do. Women who are trapped like I was, who think they have no way out. This is for them. Richard Cox came to the exhibition, stood in front of the paintings with tears in his eyes. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. Thanks, Dad. They'd rebuilt their relationship slowly, carefully, learning to trust each other again. Richard was a devoted grandfather to Rose. Spoiled her shamelessly, built her a playground on the estate, read her stories every night he was in town. And Aaron? Aaron became a constant presence in Juliana's life. He'd visit the estate several times a week, bring gifts for Rose, sit with Juliana in her studio while she painted. Their friendship deepened, became something neither of them could quite name, but both of them felt. One evening, Aaron found Juliana in the garden. Rose was with Richard for the night. Juliana was watching the sunset, a glass of wine in her hand. Mind if I join you? Please. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the evening settling around them. Finally, Aaron spoke. There's something I need to tell you. What? I'm falling in love with you. No, that's not right. I've already fallen. I'm in love with you, Juliana. Juliana's breath caught. Aaron, I know the timing might not be right. I know you've been through hell, and you need time to heal. But I can't keep this to myself anymore. You're extraordinary. You're strong and talented, and you've survived things that would have destroyed most people. And every day I spend with you, I fall a little more. He looked at her. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not pressuring you. I just needed you to know that I see you, that I value you, that I love you. Juliana felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I'm scared. After Aiden, after everything, I don't know if I can trust my own judgment anymore. Then don't trust your judgment. Trust time. Trust actions. I'm not going anywhere, Juliana. Whether you love me back or not, I'm going to keep being your friend. Keep supporting you. Keep being part of Rose's life, if you'll let me. He reached out and gently wiped away her tears. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. What if I told you, Juliana said softly, that I think I'm falling in love with you too? That you scare me because you're everything Aiden pretended to be. You're kind and strong, and you see me as a person, not as a trophy or a servant or a burden. You don't have to be scared. Not with me. How can you be sure? Because I know what it's like to lose everything. I would never, ever make you feel the way they made you feel. You're not a possession, Juliana. You're a partner, an equal, someone I admire and respect and, yes, love. Juliana looked at this man who'd saved her life, who'd stood beside her through the worst time of her existence, who'd asked for nothing in return. I need time, I know, but I don't want you to go away while I figure things out. I won't. I promise. 6 months later, Aaron proposed. They were in Juliana's studio. She'd just finished a painting she was particularly proud of. Aaron had brought champagne to celebrate. He got down on one knee. Marry me. Juliana laughed, thinking he was joking. Marry me, Juliana. Not because you need protection. You have your own fortune, your own power, your own life. Marry me because you want to build a future together. Because you love me the way I love you. Because we've both been through hell and we've found something beautiful together. He pulled out a ring. Simple, elegant, nothing like the ostentatious diamond Aiden had given her. I'm not promising you a perfect life. I'm promising you a real one, with struggles and joys and everything in between. I'm promising you partnership, respect, love that doesn't come with conditions or expectations. Just love. Juliana looked at the ring, at this man, at the future stretching out before her. Yes, she said, laughing and crying at once. Yes, absolutely yes. The wedding was small and intimate, just close family and friends. Rose was the flower girl, toddling down the aisle with determination while everyone laughed. Richard walked Juliana down the aisle, whispered in her ear, "He's a good man, sweetheart. He'll take care of you. We'll take care of each other," Juliana corrected. That's the point. Aaron stood at the altar watching her approach, and the love in his eyes was so clear, so real, so different from anything Juliana had seen in Aiden's eyes. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. "I promise to see you," Aaron said, "to value you, to stand beside you, not in front of you or behind you, to be your partner in everything. I promise to trust you," Juliana said, "to be brave enough to love again, to build something real with you, to choose you every day for the rest of my life." When they kissed, Rose clapped. Everyone laughed. It was perfect. Afterward, at the reception, Richard gave a toast. "My daughter taught me something important. She taught me that worth isn't measured in money or status or family name. It's measured in character, in courage, in the ability to survive the worst and still choose love." He raised his glass. "To Juliana and Aaron, may your love be real, your struggles be shared, and your joy be infinite." Everyone drank. Later, when the party was winding down, Juliana stepped outside for air. Aaron found her there. "Happy?" Juliana smiled. Yes, for the first time in years, genuinely happy. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, leaving her father's estate to find herself. Meeting Aiden, the nightmare of her first marriage, the storm, Rose's birth, the trial, the revelation. Everything that had broken her had also rebuilt her. Stronger, clearer, more herself than she'd ever been. "Thank you," she said to Aaron. "For what?" "For seeing me when I was invisible. For saving me when I was drowning. For loving me when I couldn't love myself. Thank you for giving me a reason to live again." They stood there as the sun set. Two broken people who'd found healing in each other, ready to build a future together. Rose ran out to join them. Aaron scooped her up. "Daddy," she said. It was the first time she'd called him that. Aaron's eyes filled with tears. "That's right, sweetheart. I'm your daddy, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you know how valuable you are, how loved you are, how you never, ever have to earn your worth." Juliana wrapped her arms around both of them. This was her family, not bound by blood or obligation, but by choice, by love, by the decision to build something beautiful from the ashes of something terrible. And far away, in a prison cell, Bethany Sanders sat alone, realizing too late that the woman she'd treated like trash was worth more than she'd ever comprehend, realizing that her cruelty had cost her everything: her freedom, her son, her granddaughter, her family name, all because she'd valued money over humanity, status over kindness, pride over love. The final irony was devastating. Bethany Sanders had thrown away a woman worth billions because she thought she was worthless. And now, Bethany had nothing, while Juliana had everything. Before I close this story, I need to hear from you. If this journey moved you, if Juliana's strength inspired you, if you believe in second chances and justice and the power of truth, I need you to do something. Hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we tell stories like this every week. Stories about survival, justice, and triumph over evil. And I want to know what you think. Comment below. Would you have revealed your identity earlier? Would you have forgiven Aiden? Do you think Bethany got what she deserved? I read every comment, and I love hearing your thoughts. Also, tell me where in the world you're watching from. Or just type, "I am with you, Mr. Hearthline." Your support means everything to me. Now, let me tell you what happened next and what you can learn from Juliana's story. 5 years after the wedding, Juliana stood in a major art gallery in New York City. Her work was being featured in a solo exhibition. Critics called her one of the most important artists of her generation. Rose, now 6 years old, stood beside her. Smart, confident, loved beyond measure. Aaron was there too, and Richard, and friends Juliana had made in her new life. Real friends. People who valued her for who she was. A reporter approached for an interview. "Miss Cox Ward, your story is inspiring to so many people. What would you say to someone going through what you went through?" Juliana thought carefully. "I would say that your worth is not determined by how others treat you. The Sanders family treated me like garbage because they thought I was poor. But my value as a human being never changed. Whether I was Juliana Cox, the billionaire heiress, or Juliana the struggling artist, I was always worthy of respect, kindness, and love." She looked at Rose. "I would say that sometimes the hardest storms lead to the brightest dawns. I was thrown out in a literal storm, and I thought I was going to die. But that storm led me to Aaron, led me to freedom, led me to the life I have now. And I would say this, never let pride stop you from asking for help. I almost died because I was too proud to call my father, too proud to admit I needed help. Pride is not worth your life." "What about forgiveness?" the reporter asked. "Have you forgiven your ex-husband?" Juliana was quiet for a moment. "I've forgiven him in the sense that I no longer carry anger toward him. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean allowing toxic people back into your life. Aiden made his choices. He chose his mother over me, over our daughter, over basic human decency. I've moved on, built a beautiful life, and he's not part of it. That's not cruelty. That's self-preservation." One final question. What would you say to Bethany Sanders if you could? Juliana smiled. "I would say thank you." "Thank you?" "Yes. Thank you for showing me exactly what I don't want to be. Thank you for teaching me that wealth without kindness is worthless. Thank you for treating me so terribly that when I finally found real love, I recognized it immediately." She looked at Aaron, who was playing with Rose across the gallery. "Bethany Sanders tried to destroy me. Instead, she set me free. And I'm grateful for that." The reporter finished the interview and moved on. Juliana stood there, looking at her paintings. Each one a testament to survival. Each one proof that she'd taken her pain and transformed it into something beautiful. Aaron joined her. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking about the girl I was when I left my father's estate, so determined to prove I didn't need my family's money. And I was right. I didn't need the money, but I needed to know I could survive without it. I needed to know who I was when everything was stripped away. The Sanders family did that. They stripped everything from me, and I discovered I was still me, still strong, still valuable, still worthy. You're extraordinary, you know that?" Juliana laughed. "I'm a survivor. That's all. That's everything." Rose ran over. "Mama, can we get ice cream?" "Of course, sweetheart." They left the gallery together, a family, not perfect, but real, built on truth and respect and love that didn't come with conditions. And as they walked down the street, Juliana thought about everything she'd learned. She'd learned that love without respect is worthless. She'd learned that family is who you choose, not just who you're born to. She'd learned that survival is not just about living. It's about building a life worth living. She'd learned that your worth is inherent. It doesn't come from money or status or what others think of you. It comes from who you are at your core. And she'd learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to find out what truly matters. The Sanders family had valued her based on what they thought she had. Aaron valued her based on who she was. That was the difference between a prison and a home, between cruelty and kindness, between a marriage that destroys and a love that heals. So let me leave you with this. If you're in a situation where you're being made to feel worthless, where you're being abused or belittled or controlled, please hear this. You are not worthless. You never were. The cruelty of others says everything about them and nothing about you. If you're too proud to ask for help, let go of that pride. Juliana almost died because she wouldn't call her father. Don't let pride cost you your life or your happiness. If you're wondering whether you'll survive the storm you're in, you will. Juliana crawled through a literal storm while in labor and survived. You have strength you don't even know about yet. And if you're wondering whether you'll ever find real love after being hurt, you can. It takes time. It takes healing. It takes courage to trust again. But it's possible. Juliana's story is not just about one woman's survival. It's about the truth that we are all valuable, all worthy, all deserving of love and respect, regardless of our bank account or our background or what others think of us. The Sanders family learned this lesson the hardest way possible. They threw away a woman worth billions because they thought she was worthless, and they lost everything. Don't make the same mistake. Don't judge people by their circumstances. Don't treat others as less than, because you never know who you're really talking to. And more importantly, because everyone deserves basic human kindness regardless of who they are. This is Mr. Hearthline reminding you that every storm ends, every dawn breaks, and every soul has infinite worth, whether the world sees it or not. Stay strong, stay kind, and remember, you are enough. You always were. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.